That's really common, by the way, to notice when you're starting to practice, whether it's formal meditation or any kind of technique that helps you be less stressed and have less stuff running around in the hamster wheel of our minds. We have about 70,000 thoughts a day, right? 70,000. It's crazy. So the idea isn't really that we're going to stop them. It's a matter of finding a way to change the relationship to them. So we're not going to do it right now, but if you take a look at my website, the main page talks about the opening line is just breathe. How often has somebody said it to you, and why is it so hard to do? Mm-hmm. Right? And right, Debbie's smiling. And we have these entrenched habits, right? And whether it's the hamster wheel of our mind running or the busyness of the day, they're all habits.
And I even noticed that when I tell, sorry for interrupting. I even noticed that when I tell somebody else to breathe, they get frustrated.
Yes.
It's like, fine. It's like, just take a breath, calm down, let's breathe, let's back up, let's look at the, and they get frustrated because they just want to get in there. And so I think it's hard. It's hard for people to detach from emotion at times. And I'm guilty of that in certain instances as well.
Right. Right. And so a main theme in mindfulness is noticing. So I'm going to back up for a minute. There's many definitions of mindfulness. It's a global practice. It's been around forever. It's kind of credited with coming to the US in the 70s with the medical system. Essentially, there was a medical facility in California that John Kabat-Zinn, who's kind of a famous mindfulness dude, worked at. And all of these other medical providers were sending him patients that just had stress-related illness or stress-related issues. So the other docs had done everything medically necessary, but the patients were still presenting with symptoms and still coming and saying, but doc, I feel this and this and this. And so they developed the stress reduction program that was based on mindfulness techniques. So part of that is knowing that it's not a matter of shutting down the thoughts. It's a matter of changing our relationship to stress and how we attach or don't attach. So I'll give you an example. I was teaching once, and in a room full of 15 people, never been to the city before, and though all the people lived in the city. And we're all mellow and we're having this wonderful discussion. And all of a sudden there was a train, really loud train. I had no idea there was a train track adjacent to the building, right? And it was just this really loud jolt that came out of nowhere for me. And I jumped, and they were all laughing at me because they live there and it's a train, and right. And it was a wonderful teaching moment because as mellow as I was, there was a stimulus from outside that grabbed a hold of my attention and my nervous system, right? And that's what stress is, right? It's you can think of it as two darts coming toward a dartboard. So the first dart is whatever that stimulus is. So for me in that moment, I was all good. And there was this stimulus of, I didn't expect a loud train, right? And it grabbed my attention. So getting back to what Kim said about like, I try and I practice, you can be as mindful as, just a master at it. It's always a practice. Mm-hmm. So I had to laugh at my own self too. Like, that's fantastic. That's the humanness of it. Everybody's got their thing that's going to jolt them. So what matters is, what do you do with it? Right? So for me, it was like, noticing the train, take a breath, return to what I'm doing with the people, And I ended up using that as well. There you go. That's the best in-person experiential example of how stress hits us. And sometimes we react and we don't have any control. It's our emotions or our nervous system. I love that example. Sorry, it was long-winded, but